Welcome to Sports Seriously's On the Road show in Vegas for the 2022 NFL Draft. My name is Mackenzie Salmon, and what a crazy first round we just witnessed. Like we do with all the shows, we start off with the three things everyone is talking about in the sports world. Of course, we're going to talk about all things NFL Draft, and joining me is our NFL Draft expert, Luke Easterling. So, Luke, thank you so much for joining the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Mac.
All right, Luke, so for thing number one, who were the biggest winners of tonight's draft?
Yeah, I think the biggest winner starting at the top is the New York Giants. Again, it's hard to screw it up, obviously, when you have two top 7 picks, but they really made the most of them. They came away with the number 2 player on my board in Evan Neal, who they actually got at 7, the offensive tackle from Alabama, and then they get Kayvon Thibodeau, the edge rusher from Oregon, at number 5, number 4 player on my board. So again, you're talking about 2 premium positions, the 2 biggest needs for that team on both sides of the ball, and they're able to add blue chip players, 2 of the best prospects overall in this draft that are going to make an immediate impact for that team. And then after that, you have to point to the Ravens. Kyle Hamilton, in my opinion, is the best overall player in this draft, regardless of position. I know that's weird to hear about a safety, and that's why he ended up going outside of the top 10, because that position doesn't seem to be valued like those edge rushers and offensive tackles and quarterbacks and those sorts of things. So, but to see him go all the way to 14 and to see the Ravens be able to snatch him up and continue to rebuild that secondary after signing Marcus Williams in free agency, and then to make the trade that they did, sending Marquise Brown to Arizona to get that additional first-round pick and spending that on Tyler Linderbaum, who, again, feels a huge need on the offensive line at center, the best center by far in this draft, and a great value for them there at 25. And then the Jets really cleaned up with the trade they made at the end of the night. I think that they started the draft very strong. Obviously, you get Sauce Gardner at 4, and as the second corner off the board, I know many expected him to be the first corner off the board, so that's value right away at a premium position, a shutdown corner with his size, his athleticism and length. Then obviously with your second pick in the top 10, you get Garrett Wilson, one of the best receivers in this draft, helping out your young franchise quarterback in Zach Wilson. And then the big surprise move, they trade back into the end of the first round because Jermaine Johnson, the edge rusher from Florida State, who many of us expected to be a top 10 pick, and we thought was a good fit for the Jets at 10, they end up being able to move up from their early second-round pick and grab him at number 26, jumping just ahead of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I think might have been targeting him there as well. Would have been surprised to see him on the board still. But, I mean, they come away with really 3 of the top 15 or 16 players in this draft with those 3 first-round picks, and that's a huge win for the Jets.
For thing number 2, Luke, not every team hits a jackpot on draft night. So who are the biggest losers for you?
You know, in terms of the teams, I have to point to the Washington Commanders. Moving back from 11 to 16 is a nice move. You get an extra pick. But the way they spent that pick, I thought was a little odd. You get Jahan Dotson, the wide receiver out of Penn State. Solid player, very well-rounded player. Again, plays bigger than his size, but he's an undersized guy. Not a problem, but really, with Treylon Burks from Arkansas still on the table there, who is the best receiver overall in this draft to me, making him, having the opportunity to grab him as the 5th receiver off the board, I think was a great opportunity for Washington. Instead, they went with a guy that I thought should have gone, into the first round, early second round. And so to spend your only draft pick on a guy where I just didn't feel like they got enough value there. And then other than that, this quarterback class, I think, is a big loser because you didn't see a quarterback come off the board until number 20, where Kenny Pickett goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that was it. Malik Willis did not go in the first round, which was a big surprise to a lot of us. Matt Corral from Ole Miss, Cincinnati's Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell from North Carolina, all those other quarterbacks that we talked about, they're still waiting on the board for day 2. And I think that, just speaks to the fact that the league just didn't think much of this quarterback class. And none of those other guys outside of Pickett are going to get that 5th-year option. They're going to, that could turn around to be a winner down the road for those guys who play well because they'll get a new contract sooner. But just a weird night for the quarterback class. And another quarterback who I don't think will be very happy with the way things played out Thursday night is Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. The Packers go into this draft with 2 first-round picks. We know they haven't taken a first-round wide receiver since Javon Walker back in the day. And, Aaron Rodgers not only doesn't have the first-round receiver coming to him, they traded away Devontae Adams, maybe the best receiver in the entire league, to get one of those first-round picks and another second-round pick tomorrow. But But to not use either of those picks on a wide receiver, to take two defensive players. Now, I know they're two defensive players from Georgia, the most dominant defense in the country last year. So they're going to make an impact for that defense. But if I'm Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be hard to watch both of those first-round picks spent not on wide receivers, but on nobody on my side of the ball.
Finally, for thing number 3, Luke, what was the biggest surprise for you? It's got to be the wide receivers, right?
Yeah, I mean, we expected a lot of these guys to go in the first round, right? But we didn't expect the movement we saw outside of the draft, right? With the veteran receivers, we saw Marquise Brown, as I mentioned earlier, going to Arizona from Baltimore in a trade that involved a first-round pick tonight. And then we saw the other deal with Tennessee, sending A.J. Brown to Philly and him getting a new contract extension with the Eagles there, again, changing hands with a top 20 pick. So yeah, the wide receiver market, again, this started earlier in the offseason when we saw trades for Devontae Adams. We saw a trade for Tyreek Hill. We got the Deebo Samuel situation with him wanting a new contract in San Francisco as well. So wide receiver market definitely seems to be driving this whole thing. The wide receiver draft started driving this whole thing tonight, right? When we saw Drake London come off the board at number 8 to Atlanta, Garrett Wilson again to the Jets at 10, and then you saw teams trading up over and over again. We've thought for a long time that you can kind of get receivers wherever. Now it's becoming a premium position, and I think it's going to be even more valuable to these teams that don't want to pay these big contracts to the guys that are coming up in free agency, but would rather spend first-round picks on these young guys and get them on cheaper deals.
Thank you for joining me, Luke. The New York Giants made a major splash, taking Kayvon Thibodeau with the 5th pick in the first round. Prior to getting drafted, I sat down with the pass rusher to see how he's preparing for life in the NFL after the break. Hey sports fans, if you want to watch more sports seriously, be sure to check out these clips right here. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel to see all the great content from us here at USA Today Sports.